Hi, everyone.
Hello.
All right. Uh, oh, we have everybody, right? Yeah, 7 of us except Haley. But I can't. I met with her earlier today. I think she's going to be joining. Uh, Let's give her a minute or two. Actually, while we're waiting, just to let everybody know, I just a minute or so ago I sent everybody. Sorry to not get it to you earlier. It's hot off the presses. We have the latest budget draft, which few things changed. Nothing. Um, Massive, but a few things to explain. And then have also attached kind of an overview document that George put together. The tab that says February 17th has some of the kind of high level consideration, like estimates in terms of tax levy, what's the impact on average single family tax bill will be. And then there's a tab called considerations, which is some not anything obviously reflected in the budget, but just the beginning of some different ideas, some of which George had, some that I had um, to deal with the budget deficit that we have. So um, that's kind of what those documents, what is in those documents. I got an email from Haley. No, just bear with me for a sec. Uh, all right, I assume she'll join. Okay, so here's what I want to do tonight. Is first of all look at the latest budget document, go over what's changed since February 10th when we last looked at this. Okay, um, then also highlight what's kind of still in flux and may um, you know may may change. Obviously, there are a number of things, but that sort of big things that may change. Um, then I want us to start a conversation about, okay, well, what are we going to do to what are some proposals to address what we're looking at is a basically a 9% increase in the operating budget, which feels like a lot to impose on taxpayers because that actually translates to like a 12.6% increase in the average single family tax bill. So I think we've all assumed that we're going to have to do some things before we actually get to the point where we have a sense of what our tax levy is. So I think we want to begin talking about some of those ideas, get some feedback on that. And then I want us to talk about the meeting with department heads that is scheduled for next week. Um, talk about some kind of what sort of context setting we want to do for that meeting, what our goals are, um, what are some things that we want to communicate and share, and what do we want to discuss with them, and also have a conversation about what we want to actually share in advance of the meeting because my I have some time tomorrow to work on stuff. I'm traveling, but I'll have my laptop. And so I think what I need to do is send something to Haley by kind of midday tomorrow that she can share with everybody who's going to be attending. So that's what I had planned for tonight. Are there other things that folks wanted to make sure we talk about tonight?
Did you mention approving the minutes from the last meeting?
We can do that. I was wondering if maybe I'd hold off on that just because I
Well,
was hoping not to keep everybody our
that's fine.
usual two
Okay.
plus hours tonight, but we might get there. I don't know. We'll
Well,
see.
I wanted to mention that the personnel board was supposed to meet tonight to
Okay.
finalize numbers. We did not have a quorum. So we will be
Uh,
meeting Tuesday at
okay.
5.
Okay.
And Haley said that she sent you
Yes. So let me,
updated. We
yeah,
didn't discuss that at the personnel board, but Tuesday at 5 is our next
you
meeting.
will.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let me do this. Let me actually share the budget because that is one of the things I wanted to um, make sure everybody was clear on. Uh, so I'm going to start with the expenses. Can everybody read this okay? Should I do like, we can hide a bunch of rows here? I'm sorry, a bunch of columns. Can I do everything through FY24 and then maybe make this bigger? How's that? Good? Okay. All right. So basically anything you see here in blue font, I went through this today. So this comes from Haley, um, and I compared this to the last budget draft that we looked at on the 10th. And anything that is in blue is an update. Okay. You'll see many that are just reflecting a new, slightly different COLA, which is 2.59%. I think it was 2.41% in our last draft. I had assumed that when I saw that, I forgot to actually ask her about this, but I assumed that was actually coming from the personnel board that they did a new calculation.
Right. She mentioned, and
Okay.
we were not able to vote on it, but she did
Okay.
mention that the numbers looked a little different and
Okay.
that's what these numbers are.
Okay. So a lot of the changes you'll notice if you don't see like a blue note in the notes column, it's probably just a reflection of a new COLA uh, percentage that's being calculated. So it's not having a huge impact, but it is changing somewhat. And then anything else, I sort of tried to put a note in here so that you could in blue, so you could indicate. So um, one of the things I noticed, and I was hoping she'd be here tonight because there are a couple things I wanted to actually ask her about, but I don't see her yet. So hopefully she'll be joining us at some point. Um, so it looks like there's an additional $925 that was added to the I guess the general government expense line. Um, and it's to reflect this financial training workshop, which I assume is what she was talking about sending Brennan to. Although I thought didn't we actually discuss that as an FY26 FinCom reserve item? Susie, can you see your hand
Yeah,
up?
and I thought we could take it out of the FY26 select board expenses, which is line 6. I don't see it as part of rolling forward. I thought we could do it out of um
Yeah.
20, and we could take it. The select board has an expenses account and he works for the select board, so I felt it could come out of there.
Okay. So that would mean, but I guess even aside from that, we're not entirely sure if this is an FY27 expense, right? So I'm going to just add to this note, and when Haley comes in, let's ask her, is this a FY26 or FY27 expense? Okay. So we may have a small pickup of just under $1,000. Okay. All right, so nothing here is changing. Okay. So here's the thing. All of these items where we had previously had a note including year two salary alignment, basically based on conversation between Haley, George, myself earlier today, where I think there were even some questions about the actual amounts that we would need to add for these part two of these salary alignment. They've actually been taken out entirely out of this budget, and I'm only applying the same 2.59% COLA increase to those lines. Okay, so that's all, I think it's 6 or 7 lines. I can't remember the exact number. So there's one exception. I'll get to that in a minute. So everywhere I did that, you'll see a note here that says removed salary adjustment. Okay, so based on what the personnel board does next week, we may need to put those back in and do some recalculating. But I think it's going to require a little more work on the back end, because I think Haley was noticing some wonky things in the spreadsheet, which I think is in here, but I haven't even looked at it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And so you'll see that come up in a few places. Okay, so here's another
AJ, if I
one.
may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for April's benefit, or for all our benefits, but Haley had indicated she was a little confused looking at last year's schedule, how to actually apply the adjustments. So if the personnel board does recommend that we adjust those positions again, she's just going to want clear direction how to process that. For instance, would you take the amount of the adjustment, add it to last year's salary, and then apply the COLA to that? Or would you just add that number? Those specifics will be helpful if the personnel board can articulate that clearly to her.
Okay. And I'm not suggesting we do this, but I would. It seems worth including this on the table of a variety of sort of potential considerations, cost-cutting considerations. One might be that I'm not suggesting that we do this. I want to think about it some more and talk about it. But one possible suggestion, if the personnel board approves this, the FinCom might want to make a related recommendation, which is to pause implementation of that. I'm not saying we want to do this, but it's maybe something worth discussing to just get a kind of take the temperature of the committee about what the pros and cons of doing that would be. So, but I was thinking of bringing that up in the context of assuming that the personnel board had approved it tonight. So it might be a little strange to have that conversation. It might be a little preliminary tonight, but it is something I think we ought to at least have some conversation about. Okay.
That was the plan.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then here's another one where I've just removed the salary adjustment and just applied the same 2.59% COLA increase. Okay. Same for the collector. All right.
AJ?
Yep. Jim?
Could you scroll up to line 32 just
Yeah,
for
sure.
a second? And this is just to make sure I'm trying to understand how this data. Line 32, the reserve fund.
Mm-hmm.
The actual for fiscal year 25 is 0.
No, I don't think that doesn't make sense.
I can't
Yeah, so that's
yeah.
the reason I bring it up is it makes me think, what in general this data, are there other things? If there's something here that's clearly looks out of whack.
Yeah.
Are there other
So that's
things?
definitely something to
and make me question the validity, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought, so anything of that sort you see, you should definitely bring it up. Especially if it's in the FY26 budget column
Yeah,
or the
yeah,
FY27 budget column, because those are, there are a number of things on the FY27 column that are working off of things in the FY26 column. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. And we can come back to other parts of this. I just wanted to make sure you all were clear on what has changed since our last discussion. Okay. So again, a couple more where we remove the salary adjustment. Okay. This Board of Registrars expense line had a fairly significant increase. It was
Registrars, yeah.
I think in the last, oh, I thought I had that number. Okay. And I think in that last
Yeah.
one, it was flat funded, I think.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah,
All right.
that's why
Okay.
it has to be addressed.
So I was wondering, I just put a note here to get an
Yeah,
explanation
is
from
that
the,
yeah, I'm
there
wondering
must
if
be
that's-
there must be something that Haley responded to that caused her to bump that up.
I think it's
So
the midterm elections.
yeah. Susie?
I sent a list of items that I saw in the budget to
Mhm.
you and George
Yeah.
and Haley. This is
Mhm.
one of them because
Mhm.
our elections go in cycles. Every year is not the same. We're having
Right.
the lowest year this year with
Mhm.
only a town election
Mhm.
in the budget cycle. And next
Mhm.
year we have the midterms. So it's more
Yeah.
like FY23 is the last time we had this particular arrangement. So I suggested it be at 7,000, and that may
I see
not
what you're
even
saying.
be the right number, but we can figure out how to make it up. And the other piece is that we're going to have
Yeah.
a new town clerk, and the way she organizes the work could be different. So this
Yeah.
is just a
Got
ballpark
it.
going from the past.
Okay, got it. So that's helpful. I did see your email. I didn't connect it to this item, so that's good to know. So she probably was just working off your recommendation. Okay. Some more COLA changes, and then this one here, custodial wages. This is the one line that includes a salary alignment that I did not remove, and that's because it also includes 4 hours of additional hours for the library, which I couldn't disaggregate kind of which part of that was for the COLA and which part was for the additional 4 hours. So I did want to verify something, which is I'm assuming because we added obviously in FY26, I think we added 5 hours for to in anticipation of the new library.
Yeah, I
And
thought those
so
hours were already added in.
Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to add, I was wondering, and you might know this, Molly, if this was somehow in response to her following up with Mary Ann. No,
I
doesn't sound like it.
No, not
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. So here's what would happen if I just, well, I'm not going to make a change, but well, let me just see. All right. So we would pick up about, what was that, about $1,400, something like that. Susie?
I'm looking back at last year's minutes, and on April 1st,
Mhm.
it says the 5 hours per week was added to custodial wages, and that was 5,220. So that's the
Right.
number that happened, and we're not talking about a change in that at this time that I know of.
Right. Yeah. So I think we may need to revise this downward, but I will confirm with Haley when we get a chance to talk with her. Okay. I'm not going to take it out just yet, but think we may end up doing that. Okay, let's see what else. More COLA stuff. Okay. All right. So a version of the budget that she included to us earlier today had the choice out dollars and the charter sending tuition dollars in here, which was having I opened the budget and it was
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
a huge a huge increase. And so so actually I left my note in here. So in talking to George, we both agreed that we don't usually include those in the budget. And George, you had an explanation that made a lot of sense to me. Do you want to just repeat that for the full committee about why we don't usually put those in here?
Yeah, so the school choice is on the revenue page in the in the cherry sheet, and we
Right.
always subtract it out, so we don't use that revenue to balance the budget. So
Right.
we wouldn't put that expense in the budget.
Yeah, so it would be odd to it wouldn't make sense to put it on as an expense and then delete it on the revenue page or remove it on the revenue page. Yeah.
And the charter side, I was a little more confused. I wasn't really sure what the answer to that was. I did notice that on the cherry sheet, there's two negative amounts that they're subtracting from our aid. And when I went online and did a quick research, I read that the state what I read was the state sends the money to the towns that are receiving the students. So that would explain why they decrease the money out of our Chapter 70. They take it away from us, and then they just hold that money, and then they distribute those funds that they hold from all the towns to the charter schools. And so it appears to me that we don't actually make that payment.
I see.
It's the
Got
state
it.
that makes that
That
payment.
it's already deducted from our Chapter 70 award, right?
Yes.
Is that what you were going to add,
Yes. If
Susie?
you look at the revenue page, you'll see that. But and then when we're over there, we will see it. But yes.
Okay.
No, the only reason I raised this in my list of things was if you look back in earlier, like I think it's FY 23 or something, those numbers are in the lines.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're there, and that's all I was asking.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. No, that's
143. Yeah.
I think they're usually added in the actual, but I don't know why that is. Yeah, you're right.
Because they're probably putting the revenue side for that. And I would say, Susie, in those years, we'd have to go back and look, but chances are when we were building the budget, we left the revenue number in from the state for the choice. We weren't subtracting it out. I know that's true for 20.
I don't think this reminds me of the battle with Bob and Becky trying to present it. I think there was a process to do something. I just didn't know why it was in these past years, and should we understand how to use it currently?
Yeah.
Got it.
But
when you say it was in these past years, you mean in the actual columns, not in the budgets that we would look at town meeting, or do you mean that?
I can go back to figure that out by looking in the past, but it's on this sheet, and and you remember the argument Bob and Becky would have about where do you put the school choice thing, and so I don't know. I can look back and get back to you to see how it went in the when we proposed a budget to town meeting.
I'm looking back at the revenue page in actual 20 in the previous years, which are hidden. If you unhide those columns, you're going to see that we used to include you got to roll up. Yep. All right. And then
there it is.
Cherry sheet. So you can see we took it out in 22, 23, 24, but in the prior years, we weren't taking it out. So if we're not taking it out of revenue, then we would need to leave it in the budget.
Got it.
So we changed the policy. I'm sure Becky had a good reason. Maybe she talked to the DESE or DOR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it
So
would
that,
change our picture radically, and I didn't necessarily think that's what we should do. I just needed to understand.
right. You
Well,
just wanted to
that's right.
understand. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
no,
we
I'm
need to be
glad
able
you
to
brought it
explain
up
it.
because
So,
I was, yeah.
so just so I'm trying to understand this. So it either needs to be in the revenue and the expenses, or in neither the revenue or the
Yeah,
expenses,
exactly. Because those things,
because they should
oh,
offset
they
somewhat.
should offset. Yeah. And
Okay.
what our best understanding right now is that what's happening is that the school choice is deducted from in the cherry sheet already. And the same for the charter sending tuition. Actually, we
That
believe is
always was.
deducted from, our Chapter 70 award. So yeah.
I think it probably does warrant
Mhm.
more research
Yeah.
to understand that. I mean, I could
Yeah.
reach out to Becky. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Becky's on medical leave.
Uh,
Yeah,
okay.
she won't be back at work until, I believe, March.
Well, she's a resident of the town.
But she has medical.
Oh, so you should don't leave her alone, in other words?
I would say so.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. All right. I might ask. I have a meeting with uh um uh a couple of the other town FinCom people, school people, and I might ask them how they if they have the same assumption or understanding as what we think is happening
Idea.
here. So okay. All right. So those are a couple of items to flag, and then oh, I just added a note. I think we need to just have some kind of explanatory note for this what's a significant increase in the snow materials. Um, is that it? Let's see.
I have a question about the
Yeah, go ahead.
libraries, which you just went
Yeah.
by.
Yes.
So with these numbers, I think
Mhm.
we're $146 short of making the MAR, the municipal
Yeah.
appropriation requirement.
Hmm.
And so my suggestion would be to increase the um my suggestion would be to do nothing until we know what the salaries
Right.
actually are going to be. But
Yeah.
then if they were to stay the same, to increase
Hmm.
the expenses by $150 just to make sure
Okay.
that we get up to that 2.5%.
Okay. Make final adjustment to ensure a 2.5%.
And that's 2.5% for the salaries and the expenses.
Yeah.
So
What was that? Up to 150?
right now it's
Said.
146, but I'm worried because I know East Hampton had to have a special meeting because they rounded down instead of up. And so they were less than $1 off and had to have a special town meeting about it. And so that's why I think it's
Got it.
$146. I would suggest 150 just to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. How about this? So I think the alternative is to sort of just have a flag here to make sure that we do a final calculation on this.
Yeah, I will do that
Yeah.
before
Okay.
when we
So,
know the actual numbers.
yeah. And so this note will stay in here until we have a finalized budget then.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Then there was a fairly significant increase in the FERCog. Did this come from you, Susie?
Which
Do you
one was
reckon?
that?
So this is line 226. There
Nope.
was.
I don't have
Okay.
that.
All right. So the last budget
Oh, Jesus Christ.
had a pretty. I'll tell you exactly.
Wow.
Mentioned that at the capital planning meeting. I mean, just kind of as an aside type of thing. I mean, they changed like just kind of our values, like one of the values kind of changed. In addition, like I think there was just kind of some services that have changed, like the dog stuff. I mean, I think like electrical or plumbing or something like that also.
Okay.
Jeez.
So in the last budget that we looked at on the 10th, the FERCog expense was $13,682. So we are adding
9,000.
10,000, yeah, more. So I'm assuming Haley has an explanation about that. That we'll just have to wait for. Okay, I think that's it. I forgot to include that here. Let's see. Let me just add this real fast. So I just was making a little table just for our benefit of being able to see what has changed from 210 to 219. Oh, it's in here. Okay, so yeah, it's a $10,400 difference. So here are the basic, the non sort of COLA related changes or salary related changes. They total about $20,560. George.
Before you leave this, if you
Mhm.
look at column M, the gap for actual FY25, that
Yeah.
80,000, and Jim's right. I think we could probably just put the 80,000 up in the FinCom reserve, but that would go to 903, which I think would be
Oh,
more
yeah.
accurate.
All right. That's good. Let's see. It was probably in there and it just got,
Well, I looked, it was also not there last week, so I don't know.
okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So here's what I guess a question. So I think it might have just been Jim. I can't remember now. Did anybody else miss last week's meeting? So you might be seeing some of this for the first time. I just want to make sure if there were any questions folks had about this latest budget draft, just like clarifying kinds of questions before we sort of discuss the high level sort of implications and how we might want to respond. Susie.
Um, I had wondered about, and this way of looking at things is a little hard. I wondered if the town clerk certification was taken out. That's line 63.
All right.
Uh,
So, okay, so I think there was a row that got deleted from, so it's actually 62 in the
okay.
current one. So no, it's in here.
It shouldn't be in
Uh,
there. There's no chance anybody's going to need certification
Okay.
there.
Great.
I wondered if the police holiday pay got clarified. That was a placeholder. It's line 10, I guess 104.
Yeah. Let's see. So I think so that has not changed.
Right. We could use an update on that because that is
Yeah.
likely to be high.
Given new
Muted.
hire.
Yeah, let me follow up on that.
Okay. Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other
Yeah, and
questions?
so I think what I heard, the upshot of the custodial salary was more information is going to get searched out. But what I saw, where is that one? On line 80 now, that it was listed as less than FY26. Where is that? Line 80.
Yeah. So right now it's listed as a 12.9% increase. But
Okay.
that I think is because she's both added some additional hours plus, I don't know, or maybe it's just the salary alignment plus the 2.59%. It's not clear. Her note would suggest that she added some hours, but I'm not convinced she did
Yeah.
because I think it could also be just the salary alignment part too. But,
Okay.
so we'll have to get clarity on that. Okay. Any other?
Oh, but did line 30, oh, line 33 was just, it has no entries. It's the GIS. So it looks like line, it was
Yeah.
line, what did I just say?
Yeah, now 32. Yep, it's got
gone.
5,000.
It's gone now.
So we're not,
It
it
wasn't,
should be gone?
yeah, it should be disappeared. It wasn't being paid for in the whole schedule. And so we took out some lines because we knew we didn't need them in there. And that's
Right.
one of them.
And they
Okay,
hadn't been
great.
used in prior years.
Right.
Okay. All right.
There's nothing in there.
All right. So we can zero that out. In other words, yeah.
It's gone.
Zero
Okay.
what out? Hold on, I'm not looking. I'm in the minutes.
So line 32 on today's budget, February 19th budget
Are
is
you?
GIS.
Nope, sorry,
Sorry, I'm
that's not
missing
what
it.
we're
Yeah, we
doing.
need that.
We need to have that
Yeah.
in. That's the GIS web hosting, but there used to be a line called 33 and it was called GIS Dimension Data.
Oh, I
it
see.
was-
So that must have been the line that got
Yeah,
removed.
to change
I-
all the numbers. Right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I understand now. Yep. All right. So yeah, that's the one that got taken out.
So what's the new bottom line on the budget?
All right. So the new bottom line is 8,464,538.
Okay.
Okay. So before I do anything else, I'm going to just update the excess levy capacity number to get this thing balanced.
So
And I think what I-
$1,000 pickup. Nice.
Yeah. So I think I can just change this to 3. Okay. Yeah. All right. So what we're looking at is a 9.06% increase in the operating budget. Obviously, I don't need to tell you guys, but we've got $148,000 insurance increase, $167,000 increase in debt service, $1,000 increase in our OPEB contribution, $164,000 increase to the elementary school budget. I think those are the big ticket increases. I think in terms of departmental budgets, the only one that's, I think, kind of another sort of significant increase is the highway department budget, which is between the department's budget and snow removal. We're increasing by about 40, a little over $40,000. But I think just based on our conversations over the last few meetings, where what we're recognizing has been a sort of chronic underfunding of the highway department specifically, and we're just like constantly, zeroing out these budget lines like in the middle of the year. And I think in this case, we can safely say that what we're doing here is actually making increases that are kind of overdue. And then of course, there's the point we'll want to communicate around the school increase, which looks significant, but most of that is a function of an obligation, out of district obligation that we have that has shifted from a public to a private education placement. So that's what we're dealing with. Right now, no cash reserves applied. We would need to utilize, let me give you the exact number, 220 plus 163,380. We would need to utilize just under $390,000 of excess levy capacity to balance this budget. And it would have the impact of increasing the average single family tax bill by $851 or 12.6%. And we still think there are some items that may need to be actually that may increase the operating budget, not by huge amounts, but by some. We have these part two of these salary adjustments, which we may be doing. So, but I think the sort of floor that we're dealing with is a 9% increase in the operating budget, a 12.5% increase in the average single family tax bill. Molly?
I don't think that Haley has incorporated the additional library expenses in
No.
there either for the water
That's
testing and
right.
stuff, and that's
She has
several
not.
$1,000s still.
Yeah. She has not. And, I think I'm going to sort of I was going to add that to a kind of list that we are starting with of potential sort of, I don't want to call them remedies, but adjustments that we might make, which would be potentially to utilize cash to fund those increases that are beyond the custodian increase that was already included here. But we'll get to that in a minute. But yes, you're right. That's one of those things that I think there are sort of two kind of things that we're waiting on, or I should say, yeah, two types of things that we're waiting on that could impact the budget. It could increase it. One is salary adjustments, and then two are additional library expenses. There's also, I guess, a new, we have a placeholder in here for the town administrator salary. I don't know how close that's going to be to what eventually gets negotiated, but that's, I guess, another thing to consider. Susie?
I thought we put the $4,000 for water testing in where water testing used to be, water quality testing in the expenses.
That's not
Let's
the only
see.
thing, though.
I understand that, but
You're
she
right
said-
about that, though. Yes.
She said two things, and the other one isn't in here is the HVAC 5,000, but the water
Yeah,
one.
you're right. Yeah, you're right. The water one is already in here,
Well, that's
but
good.
but I think there were the HVAC testing. I think carpets were going to be covered by the
Windows.
or is
Yeah,
it
the carpets
windows?
in the
We're gonna be
windows, I
covered-
think we're going to be covered by the Friends for a while.
Yeah.
I think the other thing
Okay.
was supplies, like toilet paper, now that they have toilets.
Yeah.
Right.
So there may be. I think they're going to be minimal, but we'll see.
Yeah, if the 4,000 was the big one, so
The
that
big one, yeah.
if that's already included, that
Well,
helps a lot.
HVAC was
Yeah.
5,000, so there's another piece. The
Yeah.
other question I have is I couldn't read, what is our current excess levy capacity
Okay.
before we
So
use
bef-
any of it?
Before we use any of it, it is this number here, $617,472. It gets reduced to $227,546 if we don't use any cash reserves or cut any budget items, because we are using $390,000 of excess. Yeah.
I'm
That's
sorry,
what
so you said the
that-
number is on line 17, it's the no, what is it?
No, it's line 14 on the revenue
Oh,
page.
14, okay.
Says less excess levy capacity.
Oh, okay, I
This
see now.
this number in the final recap column is the starting point of what we begin the year with
Okay,
in terms of excess levy, and this is what we end up with.
Okay,
So the difference
And-
between those two is just about $390,000.
okay.
Right, and that's the utilization number.
Yes. Yeah. I guess that's right here. Yeah.
No.
Right.
This is
So all
this
three
is
of
this
those
is
are
how
there.
much we're using. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the numbers there. Yeah. Okay. Um, so yeah, and again, here's what this all translates to for the average single family tax bill. So, any questions at this point before we talk about some adjustments that we might want to, I'm calling them adjustments, but what I mean by adjustments are there's really, I think, a few categories of adjustments to discuss. One is potential items that we can either fully or partially fund with cash reserves. So that's one type of adjustment. Another type of adjustment is to, recommend a cut or maybe a delay of implementation on a certain expense. So that would actually be cutting a budget line, not necessarily zeroing it out, but maybe reducing it. Are there any other sort of types of kind of like, I'm just thinking in terms of the categories of types of adjustments that we could make? I mean, obviously on the revenue side, there's not really anything for us to do. Jim?
Yeah, not to get to your question, but something just before that. And I apologize
Yeah.
for not being in the meeting last week, and maybe
Yeah.
just from my understanding, I just trying to digest where the big increases are. And I'm
Yep.
looking at lines, look at line 209
Okay.
and then
And you're
240.
just to make sure you're looking at the February 19th budget that got sent around earlier today? Because the budget lines
One on
are
the
off a
screen.
little
I
bit.
think it's that one. Yeah. So it's
The one on
that
the
one,
screen. Okay, yeah.
that
So
line,
you're
and
talking
then
about
and 214 and 215.
yeah.
So are those all related to the library?
Yeah, so you'll see here that the debt service line is increasing by $136,000.
Yeah.
Okay. 117 of that is the first principal payment due on the new library loan. Okay.
Okay. And
The
then the
rest
other,
of them, yeah, you can see. Actually, yeah. Where is the rest of that?
yeah, I was looking at 214 and
The
215.
interest is down below.
214
Okay,
and
so-
215.
Yeah.
Right.
But oh yeah, I see. Right. Okay.
It might,
Sorry. So no, it's the PFAS loan. That's the other new principal
Okay.
that you'll see here. That's an 18. So basically, these two that I'm just selecting right here, those two items are brand new principal payments that are due, which is where this $136,000 increase in debt service comes. And then on the interest side, we have a 29, almost a $30,000 increase in interest payments, and that is
That's probably mostly the library?
that's mostly the library, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because everything else, the
Yep.
interest goes down as the principal
Yeah.
goes down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. And this is
So-
all
so
based
that-
on the, was it a 10-year? Based on
So
a
this is
10-year?
all based on a 10-year
Yeah.
loan, which is what Ryan is recommending. We've had a conversation last week and I think once before about recommending potentially, I should say, recommending a switch to a 15-year loan. 20-year loan seems like it's not on the table given
Yeah.
Ryan's feedback, but
Yeah.
but
Okay,
he left the door open for a 15-year.
Yeah. I just asked these questions just so I understand
of course.
the, what the big contributors are.
Yeah.
Well, and we have on the summary sheet, I just want to say, AJ, on the summary
Yep.
schedule, the other one, there's a
Mhm.
bridge showing last year's budget and this year's budget and all the items in between, the material items in between.
You're talking about the the budget estimate document?
Yes,
Okay, got it.
which I think you're going to next anyways.
Yep, exactly, yeah. All right, so let me stop sharing this. All right, let's make this bigger. All right, so here's February 17th.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you go to the top of this page, you'll
Right.
see the biggest items. The only thing, the all other is over by $1,000 now
hmm
because our new number is 8464 539.
How about I just
Yeah, just take
take
it
it
out.
out here? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep, there you go.
okay. So, all right, so let's make sure everybody's clear on this. So we've got,
Oh, I see what this is.
yeah, so this is the other document I emailed,
Yes.
just before
And this is the one with the
um,
considerations. But before we go
Yep.
there, this everybody can kind of see what the big drivers are that are affecting us.
Mhm.
That increase our budget's increasing by 700,000, right? And those are the items that make that up.
Yeah, I think the only other one, if this becomes part of something we share, which I think it should be at next week's meeting, I think the only other one I think we should
Cola?
is no, I was thinking the highway department.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, because I think that's of the departmental budgets, that's the only other one besides the elementary school that I think has a pretty sizable increase.
I think I'll add the
Um,
cola too. Do you think that we
yeah,
usually show
sure.
the cola?
Yeah, I think that'd be good. So to help me understand what these percentages are. So these are,
So the total is 9%, right? I'm not looking at it
yeah.
right now because I'm doing minutes,
got
but
it. Yeah.
yeah, right. And each one those add up to it. So basically,
Okay.
I don't even know why I put it there, but basically,
Yeah. Okay.
I threw that in there. You can see the percentage of the total budget that it's 2% of last year's budget is going to equal the increase in elementary school this year.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. I think, in the version of this that we might share, I think we should not include these because it makes it seem like the elementary school budget is increasing by 2.1%, which is
Okay, yeah, no, I'm taking them
not
out
what it is.
right
But it's helpful. Then no, you're basically saying what is the component of this overall 9.1% increase? That
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
for
it's
tonight's,
from those?
for tonight's exercise, I think this is good information.
helpful.
This, yeah,
Totally.
very
Yeah.
helpful.
Agreed. Okay. All right. And then,
So, AJ, you can just do that for you.
yep. Yeah, I will. I just want to verify one thing. So this library debt, that includes both principal and interest?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, great. Same
Same
with the
thing.
PFAS.
same thing with
Yeah.
PFAS.
Okay, good. All right.
Actually, I don't know about the PFAS. I'll have to look at that.
Okay, got it.
It shouldn't have the
Right.
interest because the interest really didn't increase from year to year. Well,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
did. It did. Yeah, it probably is interest too. Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right.
Actually, AJ, I'll do it. I'll do all these things. I'm making a note on the side. Because I'm
Okay.
gonna insert rows too, so don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Delete.
All right.
I'm just writing.
I'm going to
delete
leave it
the
for now because I
percentages.
think, as Jim said, it's helpful for us to,
Yeah, for
as
our
we're just
version, we'll keep it.
discussing. Yeah.
You got it.
All right. So, all right. So that this is the revenue needed to fund the budget. Okay. Yep. All right. Because this is just totaling all of these. Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. So you
And
can
so
see the
then this
revenue
is
change.
what, yeah, this is what it boils down to is, all right. So this is the excess levy that we're using before we do make any adjustments. Here's our new growth, very conservative estimate. And then this is our estimated tax levy. That's the 12.6% increase. And this is how it boils down to single family. Okay. Any questions about where we are right now before we talk about adjustments, Jim?
Yeah, just the excess levy capacity need.
Yep.
What that 389, how?
So that means, okay, so we begin the year, this fiscal year, with excess levy capacity that we've accumulated over many years of $617,472. That's what we begin the year with. Okay. Right now, because of the Prop 2.5, obviously we would be, if we didn't use excess levy capacity, we would need an override to fund this budget, right? But we basically, to balance this budget, before making any adjustments, before injecting any free cash or reducing it, to fund this budget right now with zero cash reserves, we would need to utilize $389,926 of that excess levy capacity.
Okay.
To balance the budget.
Got it. Okay.
All right, which would bring our excess levy capacity at the end of the year down to $227,000 and change.
Okay.
George?
Yeah. I was going to say something. Oh, so one thing I want to point out on this schedule is that $851. Last year we got burned. We underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I did this year that probably we shouldn't have done last year was on row 40, assessed value of taxpayer property. That's the same number it is for FY26. We adjusted it up last year for new growth. And by doing so, we lowered the estimated every single tax bill. So we're a little conservative by leaving that number flat. So I want to point that out to everybody. But I am going to talk to the assessor at the next assessors meeting.
Okay.
The person who's going to become our new assessor, it looks like he's been coming to our meetings, and I'm going to talk to him about how the decreased value of personal property, specifically the depreciating utility property, caused some of the burden to go on the taxpayers. I'm going to ask them how we can build that into this model, if there is a way to build that into this model.
Okay.
I don't know that there is, but I'm going to talk to him about how we can be a little more conservative, because we don't want to get burned on that again. The other thing I want to talk about, the first reason I raised my hand, new growth is $20,000. And I'm getting on my soapbox right now. I've heard a lot of towns talking about, anybody reading the Gazette knows we are not the only town in this situation. This situation is horrible. We're one of the fortunate ones that don't need 2/3 vote to increase the tax levy, because we can do it with a majority vote because we have excess levy capacity and we don't have to raise the levy limit. So, but that still means the voters got to approve an $851 increase if we decided to use all the excess levy capacity. One of the main reasons we're in the position we're in, and we all know this, is we're a bedroom community, right? Where 96% of our revenue comes from residential property. The other reason is we don't have new growth. We have no new growth opportunities. We don't encourage any businesses to come into our town. I don't know that we discourage them. I know we've had referendums on things and we've limited some of the growth that we've allowed in the town. Our one big opportunity for new revenue has ended, solar project. And so people need to understand, I'm not advocating for the solar project or any other project, whether it's batteries, data centers, pot farms, marijuana plant farms. But when we say no to new development, when we make policies that make it difficult for opportunities for new revenue to come in town, we have to pay for that. I don't want to make the school pay for that. I don't want the education of the kids to be compromised. I don't want the highway and the safety to be compromised. That's me personally, but I think that's a concept that I'd like us as a committee to consider and communicate if you all
Yeah.
agree with me. Because that new growth number in the years it was good allowed
Mhm.
us to build up excess levy capacity. And we had 2 years ago, we had 112,000.
Mhm.
10 years ago, the Wheelock project, we had like 80,000. Those are big numbers in one shot.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to some extent that we do need to communicate.
Yeah, I think we also need to acknowledge that, okay, let's say this, if this were to be our budget, for, FY 27, if all it would take would be another year, 1 year, with
Revenue.
similar pressures, and we are in override territory, right? We're
Yes.
utilizing,
Yes.
$390,000 of excess levy capacity under this budget proposal here. So we wouldn't have that in the year after this. So that's another, I think, point that we have to we have to communicate, is that we're not like this is not something that we can rely on always being there.
Yes.
We are making significant cuts. We cut into it quite a bit last year. We used, let's see, we went from 862,000 down to 617,000. So yeah, we are rapidly diminishing that capacity. Jim and then Susie.
I'm sorry, but
Oh, that's
my
from
hand
before.
was still
Okay,
up from before.
no problem. Susie.
So I think this is messaging that all goes under the heading, something has to change. Because we know that if we don't have a different revenue source and we use up all of our less excess levy capacity, we will be looking for an override. And politically, that's tough.
Mhm.
But I guess before we work on the messaging, I would like to work on some of the alterations that we
Yeah.
can do so that we're not working at the extreme end of this.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that's good. George, did you have
Oh,
something you wanted to?
I just wanted to make a comment about what you said, and that is, AJ, we might want to look at our long-range projection once or two times more before we get to annual town meeting, because you did make the
Yes.
point about how long our excess levy capacity is going to last, and
Mhm.
maybe we should kick around what those future years would look like. So,
Yeah, that's a good, definitely something we want to do. All right, so let's look at this very preliminary list. None of this has been reflected in the budget. Obviously, it would be overstepping to do that, but there are things that we may want to discuss. And so, again, just to make it clear, this is a mixture of items where we would potentially use cash reserves. And let me, because we have a couple of new members, we ought to just talk about sort of the principles of around sort of where we think it's appropriate to use cash reserves to fund operating budget items. It's not a good practice because it essentially just replicates this cycle where we have ongoing regular anticipated expenses. Those should not be funded from cash reserves because it just puts us in a hole the next year, because those expenses are going to be there. They're not going anywhere. They're part of just what it routinely requires us to spend to run our town in any given year. So in the past several years, we've made an exception to the idea that you shouldn't use cash reserves to fund your operating budget, which is we've looked for budget expenses that are by their nature temporary. They're not like a long-term feature of the budget that is just going to get, replicated in the next year, the following year. So, if you added a new staff member that was not a temporary staff member, would not be a good practice to use cash reserves to fund that. So that's one scenario. Then last year, there was a second scenario where we had sort of extraordinary increases to specific budget items like health insurance premiums, where we said, let's cushion the blow. It's not that that's a temporary. We don't think our health insurance premiums are going to go down, but we said, rather than hit taxpayers with 100% of that, exceptional increase in 1 year, let's kind of cushion the blow and do a partial, funding of that increase with cash reserves. Are there any other scenarios where we've used cash reserves to fund operating expenses? Anybody think of any? I think those are the only two.
So
Susie?
We said
Okay.
when there was some school expenses, we expected them to drop out eventually. So it
Mhm.
wasn't a long-term operating
Mhm.
commitment. It was shorter
Yeah.
term.
Right.
So
George?
the two you said were using cash reserves to fund expenses that are not ongoing, use
Mhm.
cash reserves for what was the other one you said?
Easing
I said,
and
easing the impact
Oh,
of an
that's it, right, yep.
extraordinary increase to
And I was gonna
our
add-
budget.
Right, using the impact of new or unusual increases.
Yeah.
And then the other one I was thinking of was funding lines that will get reimbursed for in the future. Circuit breaker goes directly to the school, so we can't do that. But I think veterans benefits, we get money back for.
Yep.
Yes. And we have done that in the past, right? We did that
Yeah,
last year?
last
Yeah.
year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recent past.
Yes. Okay. So is everybody kind of clear on that? So that's sort of one type of adjustment. There are some suggestions of possible kind of ways, areas where we might want to use that here. And then there are at least a couple on here that I'm indicating with the word cut, where I'm actually suggesting that we actually reduce actually I should put that here. Reduce the expense on our operating budget. Okay, so should we go through these, or Susie, did you?
I just want to say one
Yeah.
other use of cash reserves is for capital expenses sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's not like we
Yeah.
only use it here.
Right.
Yes.
In the minutes, it's just in the context of the operating budget.
Yes, right. So we're just talking about it right for now in the context of how are we going to fund this operating budget and potentially minimize what we're starting off as a 12.6% increase in the average tax bill. George.
Yeah, real quick for everybody's purpose. I threw this together
Mhm.
so we could really try to see what the impact of each item would be in terms of the average single family increase. I threw these numbers in here. Some of these, because we had talked about them already. The first two, those are just the maximum amount. That's the increase. No, that's the amount of the tuition and the amount of transportation. I didn't necessarily intend for us to do that amount, but I wanted the full amounts in here so we could just pick a percentage if we decide we don't want to do the whole thing. But we would know what the
Yeah.
number is. We wouldn't have to run back and try and figure it out. So I wasn't necessarily espousing anything here. I was just putting
Yeah.
this in here, knowing that
Yep.
we as a committee would mess with it.
All right, so let's go through these quickly just to make sure everybody understands it. So we do have, as mentioned, an out-of-district placement to private school. It's a significant expense. And to be clear, these amounts are actually, are these the actual expenses or are these the increases
Okay.
to those? I think these are the increases because I think the total expense was like over $200,000 for that placement.
I don't know. Off the budget, those two, we'd have to pull up the budget and look, AJ.
Yeah.
I thought those
Yeah,
were
let
the
me take a
numbers
look.
so I can look it
I
up.
might be wrong. I don't know why in my head
Those might be the increases. That is possible. You know, I don't remember. Sorry. I can
Yeah.
take a quick. I'm pulling up the budget right now.
Okay, that the school budget. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure well, maybe not. I might be wrong, but we'll get that clarified. So
Yeah.
it's either the increase in the out of district placement costs from last year to this year, or it's the whole amount of
All right. So
the
I'm
whole
looking at the
expense.
budget and
Yeah.
I'm looking at
The
it's the
tuition
full
went
amount.
up 69.
That's what they have in the budget request.
69,927. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they have.
So,
in the
And if
so
you
the
roll
tuition
up,
the tuition increased by 69,927, right?
well, it's interesting because
Um,
last year,
Well,
that
it's probably because the FY26 cost
they
wasn't
probably
happening,
applied, right?
wasn't happening. And so
Or they applied something,
yeah,
one of their
yeah, and
grants to
so
it.
so they took out 12,000 and they put in 69,927. So it's a change of 57
Okay.
899.
All right.
But
That's
the
So that
budget
means
is
tuition.
69,927.
Yeah, it went from so
Okay.
the number is 57 899.
The change is
The
57,
change, right?
899.
Because
What they're
there was-
budgeting is 69,927.
yes.
Okay. Got it.
And the same thing with transportation. They're budgeting the full 66,000, which is a 44,000 increase from last year.
Okay. All right. So that's an important clarification. So these are the full amounts of those. Oh no, it's not. You know what it is, George? Okay,
They're applying
so
grants.
they're applying grants. So Susie had shared, I think it was Caitlin had put this together, this document. So this is what was stuck in my head, is this 227,000.
Oh,
So the
right.
actual expenses are $228,000, but the amounts that we were funding from the operating budget
Right.
are the 69 and then the 66. There's actually over $92,000
Woohoo.
of the actual expenses that they're using grants for. So that's important for communicating, I think, because to me, that actually justifies what we're doing in here. We're not saying we're going to fund
The whole thing.
all of the costs of that placement. We're funding the portion of it that the school wanted to fund through the operating budget, right?
Yeah, they planned 128,000 out of circuit breaker. And
Right.
so I wanted to make sure we only put in free cash for money we were actually going to get back, and that's not so. Is that right?
Okay. So according to this document, the amount from funded through circuit breaker is 45,000 for tuition and 0 for transportation. Is that how you're interpreting this as well?
I'm reading that last page.
Okay, so maybe-
What am I getting? Why am I?
Oh, I see. Caitlin will apply
Circuit
for,
breaker total. Oh, so
so it's grant and circuit breaker.
right. Okay,
There-
so
there's
it's only
47
45. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
only
yeah.
45 for the tuition.
Yeah. So, okay, so this is helpful. So we think 45K of circuit breaker reimbursement. Although they've already built this, but I don't want to put that here because they've already built that into
136 is in our
the
budget.
cost. Yeah, yeah. So I don't want to put that there, but okay. But I think what we could say is, let me get the number. plus. So that's $135,927 divided by 227. Okay, so we can say that this is be precise, 59.6% of total costs of out of district placement. Can I say that? That's what this. So that's what these two amounts represent. Is basically just under 60% of the total costs of the out of district
Yeah,
placement.
60%, right.
Yeah. Rest funded from grants and circuit breaker. So I don't know. Any comments or thoughts about that? Does that seem like we should be funding portion of what was budgeted in to come from the operating budget as opposed to 100% of that?
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah.
I say it's going to take. Do we have a goal for what we want the average single taxpayer bill increase to be? Do we have a threshold we're trying to get below? I don't see how we're going to get it to a low number without something large like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The other thing is the circuit breaker system with their delay is that you have to meet a certain threshold and then they'll pay 75% or whatever they've decided for the year past that. So we could go deep this time and slowly work our way back to only using cash reserves for what we know we'll get back. But because we don't really know how this year the tuition started in January, since we really don't know that yet, we could just wing it and go ahead with these two amounts. They seem a little high to me, but there we go.
Yeah. Okay. We might want to come back to this. I mean, the only other thought I have is sometimes we get like a little too attached to like round numbers, but one thought would be to say, if we cover half of the total costs of the placement, that would be
115.
Yeah.
114.
Let's see. It would be.
What was it? 228.
So $227,927. So that would be $114,000. So wait, yeah. So that's very close. Wait, did I do that right?
Yeah, you did it right. Yep.
No, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we could say so half of the transportation is $33,000. Okay, and then half of the tuition is
35,000.
Well, yeah, but that's not half of the total. That's not the
Right.
114.
Yeah.
You're taking the 60%.
I'll tell you what that is. Divided by.
You have to go back.
No, you're right. I can't do that.
But if you bring up the other schedule, we could do it pretty quick.
Yeah, let's see.
Although it was breaking up in many pieces, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Probably
was.
a waste of our time. I think for now, just say 114, 50% of sped. And we can break it down. If you'd like, send me that and I can break it down for you.
Yeah. let's just say 114.
When I send you the schedule for Monday.
Yep. Okay. So is this calculating correctly, George? Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
good. Oh, all right.
$125 impact. And you can see, yeah,
Funded from grants, circuit breaker, and tax levy. Okay. All right, I'll just leave it like that for now.
And does that 114 include the transportation?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe
So
combine
basically,
those. Yeah.
yeah, I just combined it.
28.
I combined the two of them. Yeah.
until
just,
we
you know,
get the actual, we'll go back and look at the numbers and do the actual split.
yeah,
The
exactly.
114 between the two lines.
Yep. Okay. Should I move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So George, at our last meeting, had put together a schedule that showed us the implications of sort of payment schedules for a 15-year versus a 10-year loan. This is obviously an estimate because it assumed the same interest rate for that was suggested to us, I think, by Ryan now is likely. So, but if we were to sort of push back on the current proposal and say we think we're recommending as a committee and we built it into our budget, think that would allow us to cut $39,000 from the operating budget, from the debt service category. So I don't know, we talked quite a bit about this last week. I don't know if anybody has any new ideas, but again, the principle here is that this is a little bit different from other kinds of borrowing because this asset is going to have a long life, should be the cost of it should be borrowing should be shared by residents over the course of the next 15 years as opposed to 10 years. George and then Jim.
Did you talk to Ryan? Have we reached
I
out?
haven't, no.
Okay.
I wanted to have this conversation just to make sure this is something we wanted to actually not only recommend, but build into our budget, sort of pending any, updates from him that we can't do this. And so
Okay.
that was my thought here. Yeah. I'll give him a heads up if we want to do this. I will give him a heads up before the meeting with the department heads. Jim. You're muted, Jim.
Yeah, just 2 points on this. One, the overall long-term cost to the town would be lower with the fewer years, with the lower years,
Yes.
the 10 years. That's 1 point. The second point is, at least from my perspective, is I guess I'm somewhat hesitant to push costs to future generations in general. I mean, I understand the age of the building, how long it'll last, but future generations or generations beyond us are going to have capital expenditures too that they're going to need to take on. And
I guess what's the difference between this kind of capital item is that it has a different lifespan than a truck, a fire engine. It's But I understand. Yeah, I mean that was clearly, obviously, Ryan's concern is that there's an added interest expense that comes from stretching out the borrowing to 15 years. But I think it's that sort of weighing, are we willing to live with the added interest expense over a longer period of time in the interest of spreading the costs of these payments over 15 versus 10 years, which will include I mean, we're talking about future generations. I guess they're not literally generations there, but they are like, people who might move into town in years, 10 to 15 from now, who are going to have access to that resource, are going to benefit from it, but under the current model would not be contributing to it.
Yeah, I just think in the overall long-term cost to the town.
That was
would be lower.
100,000, wasn't it? 102,000 is the added interest
Yes,
cost.
for 10
Yeah.
to 5 years, 15, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George?
Yeah, I think you made all the good points, but I don't want to call it future generations because it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just 5 years, not 30 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And no, that's important because, people are moving
Future
in town, they're
residents.
going to benefit from
Yes.
it. It would be nice if we could stretch it over the life of the loan, but
Yeah.
other people are going to benefit from this library and they can contribute some to the capital cost. 20 years would have done a better job of that. And I do understand in the long run, we don't want higher costs to the town, but the reality is it's the taxpayers that are paying the bills and taxpayers are coming and going. And the ones who live here would get a slightly lower tax bill each year. So from their perspective, it's not going to look like a cost savings. And that's, what you're describing, Jim, is what bond counsel and Ryan is the way they're thinking. This is
Mhm.
absurd to them that we would pay more in interest. But we need to think of what the benefits we're asking for it because we see the benefits. And AJ, you laid them out really well.
Yeah, and I think, I agree we should sort of avoid the generation term, but I think if we want to include this, but I think to be precise, what we're talking about are literally people who will move into this town between the years 10 and 15 between 10 and 15 years from now, right? That's precisely what we're talking about. Who are not here, will not be here in the next 10 years, but will move into town in years 11 to 15.
And
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out because many of us made contributions to the library over the last 10 years. And some of the cost of this library has been decreased because those taxpayers who've been living here before it was even built have been paying more than their share of property taxes to allow this building for everyone. So I don't feel bad about people who move in this town later on paying a little extra. We all benefit more. I think most people are willing to spend it on this library.
Yeah, that's actually that's a useful point because for years we were actually, even in the budget, we were contributing $25,000 a
Yes.
year to a library building fund, which is partly, which is one of the funding sources. So it's not just this loan. It's it's all of that. Not to mention many volunteers. Yeah. April and then Molly.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you how old I'll be at the end of this loan. That was one thing. But the other thing is that this also could be a way to get some new growth. That having the library built in there, that we could attract more people building homes and new growth.
Yeah. Molly.
I just wanted to let you all know that I'm at work and the building is closing.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave the meeting and rejoin
Okay.
you from my car.
Okay.
So just when I disappear and then
Thank
show
you.
up with no video, that's what's happening.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Molly.
Keep warm.
All right. Yeah. Jim, did you have something you were about to say or?
No,
No. Okay.
those all good points.
Okay. All right. The next item is George, you had this suggestion of, this is kind of basically a similar thing that we did last year, although not quite to the same extent, but funding a portion of the health insurance increase. So this would be a third of the increase or a little more than that.
Yeah, I just picked a number, but I don't know, how people feel. I just threw that in there because it looks like this year's increase is also very large, 20%. And I don't know if Ryan is. I read some towns and even the region were actually cutting their increases down. And so I'm wondering if the number we have in the budget is actually the right number.
Okay. Well, given what we might be doing with this topic that we just discussed, I'm going to be reaching out to him, try to get him on Monday. So actually tomorrow I'll give him a call and see if I can. I'll ask him about that as well. Susie,
In the theory of easing, I believe we used more cash reserves last year by the end of special town meeting. So we're still
Yes.
working in the right direction. And I agree that we should ease this one in.
Yeah. I think my feeling was we should make some kind of contribution from cash reserves, but not anywhere near what we did
Right.
last year, because that's giving us, this is one item where we cannot justify this as a temporary expense. It's
Right.
not going anywhere. And I would be, concerned about, putting us back in the same position next year where we're going to see a huge increase again in health insurance because we have, if we were to do something to the extent of last year. So I'm comfortable with this amount. It's much smaller. I think last year we did, I'll get the number, but it was quite a bit because we did it in two stages. We did the original budget that we approved at town meeting, and then we got the new updated assessment, and it was terrifying. And so we did we made another decision. So we basically did it twice. So yeah.
Right.
Anybody else have a thought about whether this is a valid use of cash reserves or whether it should be higher or lower?
I like it.
Jim. Oh, you're muted, Jim.
Just more of a general question.
Mhm.
We also have to look at what we have for cash reserves. What do we have, the 700,000 plus range right
Yep.
now with what we've got proposed with capital and other
Yep.
needs. So we need to be looking at how this impacts where we end up with cash reserves and how that lines up with where we think we need to be healthy.
Yep. I'm glad you mentioned that because in the Google Drive document, thanks to George, say that a lot, thanks to George.
Mr. Spreadsheet.
We have an updated CapEx. I'm going to just quickly show it to you because I don't want us to get too derailed, but we have a new CapEx. Look for the FY27 sheet. And the important point about bringing it in here right now is if I zero this out, okay, this shows us what our free cash amount is right now before using any of it for operating expenses. It does use a bunch, which we will talk about not tonight, but probably our next meeting. It does use a bunch for capital items, but
That's
it
the
doesn't
133. Yeah.
right. That's this 133,000. So assuming those are approved and end up on warrant articles and they pass, that would leave us with $910,000 of free cash and $433,000 of stabilization funds. Both of those are above our current guidelines right now of 5% of our operating budget in stabilization funds and 10% of our operating budget in free cash reserves. Those are the guidelines we've been trying to sort of follow and mostly been successful. But we will come back to this based on some of the discussion we're going to finish up here. But that's the quick answer to your question, Jim, but at least where the starting point on those numbers are.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, Laura?
I just wanted to confirm that I understand kind of the 2.5%. So, I mean, if we spend cash, I mean, instead of levying, I mean, that's like less money, like increasing, I mean, our capacity, like in the future. So like, am I like, it's like the more we spend in cash, like kind of the less that number goes up the next year?
So it's what
true.
yes, I mean it's the more cash reserves we use, the less excess levy capacity we need to use to balance the budget. So yes, in effect, that will leave us with a balance of excess levy capacity that is that much higher, depending on these adjustments here. Yeah. So
And
if
it
we
impacts
if we use the $100,000 worth of free cash reserves to fund the operating budget, that means we can drop the excess levy capacity by actually am I right about that, George? Yeah.
We would drop the
Yeah.
amount of levy capacity that we would need to
Yeah.
utilize. So the
By that
390
amount.
would
Yeah.
go down to 290.
Yeah.
And the impact of that means the levy would be $100,000 less than what we think we need right now to balance the budget. And the impact of that is lower property tax on the average single family home.
Right. And George has taken the step of actually calculating what each of these injections of free cash translates to in terms of the average single family
Yeah,
tax
give or
bill.
take a couple bucks, give or
Yeah.
take one.
It's roughly what it's going to reduce it
Right.
by.
This is
So
all rough.
just
I
that-
hope that we can, when we present this stuff, we can talk more in ranges.
I mean, it's like, I mean, the excess levy capacity, yes, but like, I mean, also just kind of like how much like levy capacity we have, like, so like the 2.5% that we're increasing. I mean,
That's on the previous, that's on the other sheet here. It shows you, if you go to the other sheet, AJ, I think
Yeah.
we can answer Laura's question easily. Well, you had the right sheet, just on the bottom, there's two
Oh, I see what you're
sheets
saying.
on
Yeah.
that Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
If you go on the other
Uh,
one, we can see where the new revenue is coming in to cover the budget.
Yeah.
And one thing you'll see is, not this, the summary sheet.
the preliminary estimate sheet.
Yeah, the one that you
Oh.
had, it's a different tab on that. So go back to the considerations.
Yep. I'm here.
No, you're in the budget, is what I see.
Oh, sorry.
Screen. He's looking at
Sorry.
it.
That's why I was confused.
right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You're talking about this sheet.
Yes. So if you look at row 18, right, we need 703 in revenue. And where are we getting that $703? There's our 2.5 increases our limit. And then debt exclusions are increasing, which goes right into our tax levy because we approved it, new growth, right? And then increased receipts.
Mhm.
But then last year we used cash and we aren't this year. So
so I think
don't-
my question is for line 21, I mean, that is based on how much we levied last year.
Right.
right, actually,
Yeah.
yes, you want to go down to row 31 is where we really want to go.
Yeah.
And you're right. Row 33 allows us, the law increases our tax levy limit. That just automatically happens by 167. And
Mhm.
then we know we have new debt exclusion and we have new growth, which means we're $390,000 short of balancing the budget. That's the purpose of this section. And so we're going to use 390, we balance our budget. Now what we're doing on the considerations page is how can we decrease that 390 that's on row 32, thereby reducing row 36, the levy, thereby reducing the
Yeah. very
very bottom rows that show the average single tax.
So this exercise has potentially benefits in two ways. I think to finish, Laura, is it reduces the amount of tax levy we have to raise and preserves more excess levy capacity for future budget years.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks.
Susie?
And the one other thing is that when we figure out next year's 2.5 levy capacity, if we use less excess levy capacity this year, then what that 2.5 will affect will
Yeah.
be smaller than if we used more excess levy
I
capacity.
don't believe that's true.
You don't
No.
think
Levy limit
the 2.5 Isn't the
excess
two and a
levy capacity is the difference between what we need to raise and what the limit is. And the limit is always that number. It's just always higher than what we need to raise. That's what the excess levy capacity does. If we went to the revenue sheet,
No, I'm just saying what excess levy capacity we incorporate into FY 27's budget means that what we get for 2.5 in FY 28 will be a little larger than if we didn't use any excess levy capacity.
I don't think that's true.
Oh, interesting.
If you look, if you go to the revenue page where the levy capacity is calculated, that 2.5 is always calculated a number that's above the excess levy capacity. The excess levy capacity is just how much of the levy we're not using to balance our budget. The levy will always go up by 2.5. So if you look at row 4 in FY 27, 6.7 million, that number comes from row 9, line 9 in FY 26. All right. And that number, 6717, automatically gets increased by 2.5. Next year, our 2.5 is going to be 2.5% of 6.9 if new growth is $20,000. The excess levy capacity is below all that. What the excess levy capacity does is it takes your levy limit, which is row 9 plus row 12, 7133, and it looks at what you need to raise, which is 6905. Your excess levy capacity is the amount of that limit up on row 9 that you're not using. And so it does not affect the calculation of levy. It's a good
Of 2.5 million.
It's a good conversation, Susie.
Yeah, so it doesn't impact the levy limit next year. What you're saying.
And that's
yeah.
why.
Got
But
it.
this
Okay.
is great. I mean, this is what people need to understand, because the 2.5 confuses everybody. And most people say,
Yeah.
well, how come my tax bills are going up more than 2.5%? It's like,
Yeah.
ain't the same thing.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. So I think we have some consensus around potentially using 50 cash reserves for health insurance. I didn't see any other alternative numbers there. And George, you found out interesting things about how our OPEB fund is doing, right? So do you want to tell us what you learned?
Yeah, here, let me open up the schedule. I mean, what I'm seeing here, let me open up the schedule and it'll make it easier for me. I almost want to show it to everybody, but we could schedule an OPEB meet
Yeah.
on a
I think
future
that's gonna
agenda
be
item. What is interesting to me is the model we're using, and I updated it with the current balance. Our current balance is $1.2 million in the OPEB fund. And the analysis I've done, playing with these numbers, and we've all looked at this in the past. I just kind of keep it up current. If we start drawing on it in fiscal 2031, and we continue to put 50,000 in per year, we will be able. This fund will not be depleted until 2067. Okay, so what's that? 41 years from now.
Mhm.
If I take the $50,000 annual contribution out of it, funds are depleted in 2055, which is right 30 years from now, 29 years, we'll say. And so who knows what the world's going to look like then? Well, I'm beginning to question why we're funding this so much. And what I will tell you is in this model, interest in 2026 will be roughly $70,000. That's the interest income. And that number just gets higher year over year because we're not taking a lot of money out of this fund. It won't be at any material levels for probably 8 to 10 years. And
the only money we're taking out of it is just for expenses
at this point, it would be
for having the fund, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. What
Gigs.
happens is the only real OPEB costs, the 99% of it, 95% of it is health insurance for retirees.
Yeah.
And that number is projected based on the last actuarial study, goes up by about less than 2.5% per year. If we want to keep it around 2.5% per year, then we start using it. And that's what I did in my model. And so at
Mhm.
some point, those increases start to get so high that we start to use this. I mean, we could argue we should do that now, right? I mean, health insurance is going crazy. Um, I think in absence of an actuarial study, we could probably put a pause on this for now, given that even if under our current analysis, we would still be good for 30 years if we didn't fund it at all again. But I think we need to see the next actuarial study because I think they're going to change the numbers. I think the 2055 depletion date will go down to 2050 maybe, or, it's going to become closer.
Got it.
But we're earning a lot of interest, and I actually think the interest assumptions we're using this are conservative. So I think
Yeah.
to let it ride another year without funding, we're taking no risks.
Mhm.
But in this
All right.
picture, you're saying 50,000 out of cash, correct?
No,
No.
I'm saying don't fund it.
Cut it.
I don't know what I wrote there. If I wrote the wrong thing, I apologize.
No, I put the word cut here to distinguish
Oh, I
items
see.
that we're
Yeah.
funding through cash reserves and those that we're actually
I see.
would be potentially proposing to cut.
Yeah,
So
that's what
when-
I mean by with no additional town contribution. Yeah.
One other factor to put in is when we did nothing. Is that what we did last year? Nothing.
Yes, zero.
The answer by, I believe it was Gail Weiss or it was Ryan, is it's not a good what's that called?
Precedent?
It's not a good
Mm.
reflection of your economic system, and it might
Mm.
affect bond ratings and things
Right.
like that.
Mm.
And
Yes.
and so I was thinking maybe instead of the 50,000 coming in operating, we would do 25, and we could do it out of cash. I think I
So-
think zero was advised against as a precedent last year.
So you're suggesting we reduce the expense to $25,000 and we fund that through cash reserves as opposed to tax levy.
I think that's better than zero.
Okay, Jim, and then George.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we get Ryan in on this discussion.
Yeah.
And George, you mentioned another review with the fund people. Is there any timing on that? Do we know when there's another update?
Yeah, I think it happens next year. I think he said.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
next
it's probably
year.
happening now, maybe even.
yeah, it might even
Yeah.
be happening now. Yeah,
But I guess I just suggest getting input from Ryan, an update from him.
Yeah.
And I don't have an issue with what you're proposing here, given the overall set of circumstances we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And this is a way to go forward. But I think it would be good to get Ryan's input, or at least understand his latest point of view.
yeah. I think it's safe to say that he will probably not endorse us zeroing out the budget line. He might be okay with us funding it through cash. I'm sure he would prefer us funding it through cash reserves. But Susie suggested a compromise, which is to do both, sort of cut but not zero out the expense and fund it through cash, which I think makes some sense. George.
Yeah, I'm fine with that if you want to do that. I think we're going to come back to it because I think we're just not going to be able to make a substantial dent in the
Yeah.
851. The people I've heard from in town were pretty upset about a $500 increase last year. I don't know how we're going to
Yeah.
get there without doing some desperate things. And honestly,
Mm.
I think a lot of towns should be taking actions like this. The state would start getting nervous if all the municipalities started to see their
Mhm.
bond ratings
Yeah.
go down
It's like a
because the
general
state isn't
strike on OPEB. Yeah.
I just think we need to start sending some strong messages. And
Mhm.
so, but yeah, let's make it 25 now. I'm fine with that. But I think we're going to go back to it. I think probably going to do other stuff too. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, it's the voters that vote on this. It's the voters that decide.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. So we're going to say cut expense line to 25K and fund through. All right, so let's see. Gotta add.
I, yeah.
Okay, April?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should look at that. I like that proposal, but also look at funding town building maintenance repair fund out of cash reserves. I worry about cutting it entirely.
Yeah.
Um,
So here's what I would say about this is we have used very little of this line in FY26. I have not discussed. I have it on my list of calls to make. I have not discussed it yet with the building committee, but because I did mention at our last meeting that it'd be helpful to get an update from them. But I would say right now it's hard for me to imagine they're gonna spend a considerable amount of that current balance from this year. And so it's a lot of money to contribute to a fund that we all understand the need for it, but that doesn't seem to be getting spent at, I think, the rate that we were expecting. And, it might be that there are perfectly good explanations in terms of their schedule of repairs, but what did George say? Desperate times call for desperate measures. So this was not George. This is my suggestion in terms of a desperate measure. The other one would be, while we're here, is that when say these new library expenses that are already built into the operating budget are $5,000. I was going to propose, again, this is more of a cushioning thing than a temporary thing, but using reserves to fund that for this first year of the library. I don't know what folks think about that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm not here, right? To chime in on that, but
I think funding it from cash without is different than not funding it at all.
yes.
So I think that's okay. I looked at the building expenses. They've only spent like 14% of their budget
Yeah.
so far. And
Yeah.
I think the word moderator delay is kind of in here. And along with the other, it's the clicker one. I mean, I don't know why we're marching down the road for clickers right now. It seems like that's one that could be delayed or put off.
Yeah.
It's a pretty small number, but yeah, the capital planning is going to have to talk about that.
The clicker, I meant to ask you about this. It is a capital item, right? It's not a subscription kind of ongoing operating expense. Is
It
that
was a request
both.
about the capital planning. Sorry,
it's
go ahead.
both? Okay.
Yeah, so there's an initial cost and then there will be a subscription cost. I mean, there's like a little bit, it sounds like probably a little bit more like initial subscription cost because we can get people trained. And then once people are trained, like then they don't have to do the training again.
Got it.
And I think the reason they wanted to do it sooner rather than later is because we're trying to trade in the ones that we got from Amherst. So like that value will depreciate on them the longer we wait because they are already out of warranty.
Got it. Okay. All right.
So do we have a firm number of
So
the clickers would cost that we could put under free cash or cash reserve?
Yeah, I don't know about the subscription costs, but it was on that schedule that AJ showed us for the capital.
okay. So let's see. So it says clickers for town meeting, $5,700. But I guess was that the full cost for year one?
That's the
including,
capital cost that Laura was referring to, not the
so
subscription.
that's just the hardware. That's not the
Yes.
subscription.
Right.
But that's the only number I see on
Yeah.
the CapEx. So there's not a,
Subscription fee should be in a budget somewhere. I don't know if we've actually put it in our budget.
It isn't.
yeah. All right. So I'm going to put a question mark here.
And I believe the town will end up voting that item separately, so they can vote.
All right. All right. Maybe I'll email Nettie, see if she has a quote on the subscription fee. Okay. So any other suggestions of either variety, proposed cuts, proposed budget operating lines to fund with cash reserves? Adjustments to any of these amounts?
I wonder if, I
AJ?
wonder, no. Yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Jim and then Susie?
Yeah, I just saw in the capital expenditure, you have 5,700 built in there for clickers.
Yeah. So we think that's for the hardware. So that's the
Okay.
actual capital component, but
Okay.
not the operating subscription fee.
Okay.
At least that's what we think.
All right.
Uh, George, did you have something?
Oh, yes. So we do need to really read the tea leaves with the taxpayers. I know I said it before. What are they willing to vote for? 573 increase in their property tax bills? I don't think so. That's 150 a quarter. It's really 300 in the third and the fourth bills of the year. Don't think people are going to be open to that. And
Mhm.
we are leaning towards a structural deficit. We are getting close. We've been walking the tightrope of funding the budget with cash, even ongoing expenses. We do know that our free cash always seems to replenish pretty well, $200,000 to $300,000 at the end of the year. I don't know how many more years we can go on, but I do think we need to reduce this number. We need to roll the dice for another year because I don't think as I said earlier, I'm not a fan of cutting the budgets. I don't think that, these departments are asking for a lot of extra in their budgets. Most of our departments, other than the school, are 1, 2, maybe 3 people. Full-time equivalents, I don't think there's any departments that are more than 3 or 4 people other than, the 2 schools. And I'm not a proponent of cutting the schools. Our elementary school has been keeping their budgets pretty lean. And if you look at the percentage increases in their budgets, if you take out the out-of-district placements, they're not large requests on a budget that's very large. We all know that sped costs have taken over elementary school budgets, our elementary school budget. And so I'm not necessarily a risk taker financially, but I think that I want to protect the budgets for one more year. But people need to understand if the environment that we live in continues, we may have no choice, but I really want to stay away from trying to cause too much pain for our department managers and for the people who are
Yeah.
impacted by these
So
things.
George, are you saying that the way to do that, since we're not going to cut expenses, is to put more cash reserves against some of the operating costs?
Yes.
Okay, that checking where we're going.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really say that, but yes, that is where I'm heading.
I think I think I agree with everything you said, George. The only thing I would add is that I think we could potentially send a message that this is not a great year to add any significant staffing, service, so on and so forth. And I say that because it occurs to me that, the one thing we have not discussed tonight is this proposal that Haley mentioned at our last meeting around adding a new position, a facilities manager. And while I understand her, she's done some thinking about this and thinks that it will be over a period of time, something that'll actually reduce costs and bring in revenue. I think it will. I don't think there's any reason to think that can happen in year one of this, and so I don't think this is a year to do that kind of a move. But other than that, I agree with you that the only budget that I think has a substantial increase that's not like easily explained by one or sort of non-discretionary kind of component like the out of district placement is the highway department. And I think that's well documented that, we're gonna spend that money one way or the other in FinCom reserves or, line to line like that. It's clear that budget has been underfunded. So April and then Jim.
Yeah, I've a couple of things. One was we haven't talked about the proposed capital expenses. That's something. But also, if we are consistently getting back into free cash $300,000 more or less a year, then using $253,000 it doesn't put it. It seems like that's a perfectly safe thing for us to do. But yeah, where are the capital expenses in this budget?
Yeah, so I will say I don't want to go through it in detail because I think that's a separate meeting, but I can tell you
a ballpark.
In George's spreadsheet, there are $133,000 worth of capital items that are related to FY27. There are a couple of big items that I think the planning committee sees as hitting the town in FY28, right? But or later, but in terms of FY20, what we have to plan for, it currently looks like 133,000 and change. So we're talking about in these various proposals we've discussed here, we're talking about utilizing $194,000 of cash reserves.
Actually, AJ, about that.
Is that right?
Well, you're using, I think the 25,000 for OPEB is in there and shouldn't be.
Okay, so that is, well,
Unless you want to fund that OPEB with cash.
I thought that is what we discussed, that we would.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I know we said put 25,000 back in the budget. I didn't realize also apply cash to it.
So wait,
Yeah.
So I think that, I think that's what we.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Here it is.
Okay. Got it. That's good. I'll get that in the notes.
Yeah. So cut expense line to 25K and fund through cash reserves.
Got it.
I think that's, at least that was my interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
All
I
right.
got it.
So, yeah.
And that's included in your total for cash applied.
That's included in this line here. So what happens is we're decreasing the tax by $253,000, but some of that is a cut to the library debt, and some of that is a cut to OPEB, and some of that is a cut to town building repair fund. Jim?
Yeah, I'd say that along the same lines. You look at all the big drivers for these for the increase, the big hits here, and most of those are locked in. I guess you could argue that maybe school is not locked in, but I don't think we want to do anything that the school is 4.5% increase total, so it's not it's a big driver as far as increased costs, but the percentage drive on schools isn't that big.
Right.
The others are pretty much locked in. So I think
Yeah.
I sort of agree with George on this, that if we're going to take a risk with regard to our cash reserves level, this is maybe a year we need to take that chance. I think to April's point, even with, even without looking at the capital plan, I think we're going to have to take the jump with regard to eating into cash reserves this year.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
I think the only other thing that, and well, I mean, one thing we haven't discussed is pausing the salary alignment adjustments. I wouldn't be personally, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that, although I think the message around that should be that that we will incorporate those adjustments in next year, or I don't know if we would need to be specific about it, but
That doesn't get you much of a dent though, does it, AJ?
it doesn't do a
Yeah.
lot, but
No.
I think we're sort of scraping together,
Mm.
but you're right, it doesn't do a lot. It's what, maybe 20,
5. No,
25, did you say?
No,
No,
it's
I
more
think
like
it's not.
10.
5,000. I think the
5.
original adjustment was 10,000.
I think
And I
10,000 per year.
Yeah, it's closer to 10,000.
I like your idea, AJ, of what you suggested about this putting off this increase that Haley, this additional person, putting that off and maybe a
So,
delay
yeah,
on that.
To be
That
clear,
that
that's
actually
not
has an impact.
right.
Not in
And
there.
just to be clear, it's not in the budget right now, so it
Okay.
doesn't save
All
us
right.
anything. But it was something that she
Yeah.
mentioned and shared some documentation about at our last meeting. So
Okay.
that's why I bring it in now. But yeah.
Mm.
George and then Susie.
So I just want to remind everybody, we did have a conversation with the school committee about creating a stabilization, sped stabilization fund. And
Mhm.
certainly one of the justifications for using money is that I would like to anticipate that someday we will have such a thing. Don't know how we're going to fund it. Don't know what our options are, but something to keep in the back of our minds when we talk about using cash for this as well. And I did want to reiterate, I also want to reiterate AJ's point about adding new employees to the town is this is not the time for that. The facilities one in particular, we need to have conversation with the buildings committee and what they're doing before we decide about that thing as well. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's probably a good idea. I don't think the librarian should be the one who has to worry about keeping the snow off her air
Or the
conditioning
principal.
units or HVAC units. I don't think the principal should be dealing with water getting in the oil tank. There should be somebody who can help them with that. That's not their job, nor their area of expertise. So, and other point I want to make is I think employees deserve pay increases. Inflation is going up. We're asking people to do more with less, or at least hang in there with, level funding. And I'd much rather see us not hire a person, or if things got really desperate, laying one person off so that all the others could still get their pay increase. If we have to make those kinds of decisions, I think the people we keep, we need to make sure that they're motivated, productive, and feel supported.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I think it's
Oh, and one other thing. Yep. And as
Yep.
far as the capital planning goes, those $133,000 worth of items, they have not been approved yet by the capital planning committee. So that's probably going to be one of our next meeting is with the highway chief. He's got a tractor, a sprayer, a grader, and
Wow.
if all goes well with and a plow. Thank you. And if all goes well with the grader, it will have no impact on us. If we don't get a grant for 250,000, we're going to have an issue with how to fund the grader if the capital planning committee approves it. And that may be debt in the future. It probably would be debt in the future. The other two items that the capital planning has are fire truck and the the elementary school parking lot. If we approve the fire truck, it won't need to be financed until FY28, and that's why it doesn't have an impact now, but it will have an impact. And then the same thing with they gave us an estimate for the parking lot at the school of 1.2 million, but nobody really knows. That's really a wag for sure. There's a consultant coming in, a landscape consultant who did the parking lot, who engineered the parking lot for Deerfield, I believe it was, their elementary school, will have much better number on that. That is also something that would not impact FY28, might even go to FY29. So those things are in the background as well.
George, what's the timing for meeting with capital planning?
And so we're going to meet with, thank you. We're going to meet with the highway chief, like I said, on March 4th. And we, as the finance, the capital planning's on the 4th, we have them scheduled to meet on the 10th. The goal is to have everything decided so that the finance committee will know what they're going to be having to fund.
And that's when, roughly?
March 10th.
March 10th?
No, they're scheduled to meet with us on March 10th. And on March
Okay.
4th, they plan on going through the whole list and doing the yays and the nays.
Okay.
Susie?
Couple of things. I feel we need to get that clear number on the adjustment schedule for those 6 positions, and then I would support doing it because it's part of where we are trying to go. And the other thing is, in general, there was a woman that spoke or wrote about Amherst, and she said, we're having a funding problem, not a spending problem. And I think that's a really important, clear message, because every department can take back to their, can sit back and say, yeah, we're not spending too much. There's not enough funds. And so there was an article following up on rural aid today in the Gazette, working with Joe Comerford. It is pie in the sky, or it's not money in our hand, but it is a orientation to understand that we are having a funding problem, and we don't want to put it all back on our local taxpayers, but it doesn't make the problem go away. So I agree that we should spend up our cash reserves, and I think we could even go below 10% in our cash reserves this year, although there's not sure what else we would put in this list to use cash reserves. Since we started this meeting, the idea of some of the new library expenses being eased in by using cash reserves, that's a kind of thinking. But I think we have to, I personally would like to see that number under 500, since last year it was over 500, the impact on the average tax bill. But we can't promise anything that isn't it isn't us. We're not doing this.
Can we, so 2 things, I guess. One is a comment, one is a question. So one thing that I don't think we're going to be in a position to implement in this budget, but I think I want to alert everybody to a possible area of cost savings in the future is I had a meeting with the highway superintendent and Haley today about an issue that was not known to me, but some of you may be aware, but the highway department has for many years now had a practice of plowing a series of private roads around town, including a bunch around the lake.
Can you guys hear me? My microphone just died. Yep.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So, and so I see some nodding heads. So I think some of you, I did not know this. And I think there are a few obvious concerns. One is sort of just like a basic fairness and equity issue, because there are plenty of people who live off of private roads in town that are paying out of pocket for snow removal. So why do some, houses benefit from it, some don't? There's a liability issue, if one of our vehicles
Hmm.
damages a car plowing a private road, is the town responsible? Probably. Is that issue? And then there's just a basic fairness question about why why is the town essentially subsidizing or paying for a service that it's not required to provide, and that it is not part of public infrastructure in town. So Haley had, I think, an interesting suggestion, which was she's been doing some research on the concept of a betterment assessment, where the impacted households could have an additional assessment added to their property tax bill to cover the cost, which Dave has begun to disaggregate from his overall snow removal expenses. That's one potential strategy. And another strategy that we talked about was some of this work is actually being subcontracted out to people, because some of these roads are quite narrow and not appropriate for the highway department's equipment. So he actually has to pay the external vendor, and the town is covering that expense right now. So one suggestion was to the town could have any plowing it's doing currently on private roads be subcontracted out, and have those costs very clearly disaggregated because they're being paid through a subcontractor, having those added to people's property tax bills through this betterment assessment strategy. That would be a model. And then another model is just to say the town is no longer going to plow and that those roads, or even arrange for the plowing and ask for residents to reimburse, to pay the town for those services through this. So that's also another, and essentially leave it up to households to, make arrangements themselves. This is obviously complicated stuff. There's a lot that needs to be figured out. Dave doesn't even have 100% understanding of who owns all of these private roads. Like, he knows a lot of them, but so there's a fair amount of research. So I think this is something that is being examined and would potentially come up before the town at a special town meeting in the fall before the winter season, and could either potentially reduce costs or bring in, if we're going to continue to pay for this out of, through vendors, we could get reimbursed for a portion of that. In terms of I think the low end of what this costs, he said, was about $20,000. It's more than that, because that's just that's just like the materials cost. It doesn't factor in labor. It doesn't factor in anything for the equipment maintenance. It doesn't factor anything in for sort of liability. It's more than that, but that would be the sort of low end of that. So that's one thing to alert you all of. Struck me as a kind of a pretty, I think there's a bunch of justifications, not just a cost one, but a series of them that seem to make a lot of sense to me. But there'll be more on that in the future. And then oh God, I lost the second thing. A question for you all. Do you think we can set as a kind of goal to, I'm just piggybacking on something Susie said, of getting this adjusted increase in the average single family tax bill under $500? If we could somehow set that as a goal for our kind of collaborative discussion
Mhm.
with department heads. Is that one of the things we can essentially communicate as sort of a working goal for that meeting? Just try to establish ways to get there. I don't know. That's one thought. George? Oh, sorry, April and then George.
No, I just wanted to swing back to the pay raises that I
Yeah.
think that we made it very clear last year that it was going to be done in two parts. And maybe a compromise would be that the COLA be added to the current wage and then the increase added to that. And this plowing thing would more than cover this expense.
Yeah.
But also we're going to pause the alignment study for the next year. We're going to pause that. That will be the next part of that.
All right. George.
Oh boy, I think I forgot why I raised my hand, but what I will say is I think the plowing issue I think it's a stretch to think it's going to be resolved before we get our budget done.
No,
Yeah, no,
the-
I agree.
no,
It's
no.
not. It's a special town meeting thing in the fall. It's not going to get
Right. Yeah,
No.
That's
there's a
something we can
liability
plan
issue with
for.
not paving those roads, and
Mhm.
you got to be able to get to people. In the case of emergency. Oh, what was the other? I'll raise my hand. Hold on.
I will say on that, George, that there are people, including myself, that live at the end of a private dirt road, and I pay for that to be. So I agree that it's like, but I think it's my obligation as a homeowner to ensure that emergency vehicles can access my home. I don't think
Yeah,
it,
no, I
don't
appreciate
think it's
that.
the town's responsibility to do that for me.
You know,
But-
I appreciate that. I got neighbors who live in a private road, and they'll all get together and they pay a guy to plow it. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure everybody at the lake is going to agree with you.
Right.
they're not.
That is the arrangement I have. We have three families three households that share our road, and we chip in to get that plowed. But I understand the point. Susie.
So back to your original
sorry.
question.
Yeah, George. Go ahead.
I'm not sure the town managers are interested in talking about what's the right tax increase on the average single taxpayer. You know, we can tell them that's our goal and that's what's driving our decision making because we're trying to balance their needs with the taxpayers' needs. But I don't know that those who don't live in our town and are on those boards are going to be motivated by that. Just want to throw that out.
So would that include department heads as part of that?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a department head and you're asking me to do my job, I'm going to tell you what I need for money, and I understand I don't want to hurt the taxpayers. I'm a
Yeah.
taxpayer wherever I live, but
But
I don't know what the right increase is for Shutesbury residents.
Mhm.
That's the finance committee's job. Their
But what-
job is to,
What-
they're
what-
more interested in how their budgets are going to be impacted. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure talking about that goal and asking them for input on that goal is important. I think talking about it's important because we want them to know what's driving us and why we're doing the things we're doing. But from their point of view, I don't think they're going to say, "Oh, I think 600 would be." If I'm a department head, I'd say $1,000 would be the right number because I'm going to want as much money as I can get. So, I'm just
I get
saying,
that,
I don't think
but-
they care about that.
I get that, but I guess if part of the framing is that we need to get this budget approved by town residents, right? So this is they've got something at stake here, right? It's not like this. Their increases are not going to just get necessarily rubber stamped, right? We have to build support for a budget that we collectively with them have a high degree of confidence is going to get passed and approved by town residents. If part of that means that we have to demonstrate collectively that we've done everything we can to moderate the increase that taxpayers are going to experience in this year where we have, to quote Susie, a massive funding problem, not a spending problem. We agree, but a funding problem nevertheless. Then I think they do have a stake in coming up with helping us get to a bottom line that's workable and achievable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you want to get your one thing in our letter, we asked them to consider the possibility that we might
Yep.
need cuts in this in the winter. And we kind of are there. And they also have to understand that if there isn't support from voters because we're coming with a number that's too high, we're going to be cutting budgets.
Right.
That's
Uh,
the point.
Susie and then Jim.
I just want to say the discussion around the roads showed to me that we have a lot of new people in our system, in administration, superintendents and stuff, and their awareness of how we got to this about roads shows that these people haven't been with us a long time. There are lots of pieces of why the lake is a difficult issue to figure out. So I'm just feeling that that's a factor that we are experiencing kind of everywhere, that we have a lot of new people in the system and they don't know all of the history that got us here and all the ways to unwind it. And so I feel like that's going to come up around the roads. Even the idea of holding it in the fall when the people aren't at the lake, that's the kind of stuff that
Yeah.
hits people. But I think that somewhere between we explain to the we're going to the summit. We explain to people what we've done and we explain to people where our efforts are and what else is left to do. Then who decides that clearly is the FinCom, but I do think we're bringing the revenue numbers and the cost numbers to the departments so they know we're not holding cards. There's not like extra money over here or there. And this is where we've come up with, and we feel that we feel we would need to get this number so that town meeting can support it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's the way to frame it, is to give a sense of where we are in the process. You know, we've received budgets, we've had meetings with department heads, we have preliminary estimates on, expenses and on revenues. And that has brought us to this particular point where we currently have, a budget draft that includes this kind of expense. We've talked about potential adjustments. These are them. And we are continuing to work from our point of view, to drive that increase below the $500 mark. But I guess one question I have for you, and I know you have your hand up, Jim, so I'm going to get to you next, is the purpose of this meeting to communicate where we are and what we think we're looking at?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I was also under the impression that there was maybe an opportunity to do some kind of collective problem solving work with them, but maybe that's not a part of the goal of this meeting. Maybe it is a communication exercise and a
Well,
question.
we did say that to them in our letter. There is a possibility we're going to be asking for help with cutting budgets.
Yeah. Jim.
Yeah, I to the point for the message next week, I think that is the message, that we've done our work, we've done our analysis, and we've got some work to do, and we need your help to lower these budgets. Maybe the $500 number, that might not resonate with these heads. So maybe it's more like a percentage number or something that we need to put out there with the heads. For the reasons that were described earlier. That's just maybe not their interest. But one way or the another, we need to work with these heads to get to some number that's lower than where we are today. And whether we talk $500 per house or whether we talk percentages or whatever.
Whatever that means, percentage.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. The number, depending on sort of where you sit, to one person it might seem like a big number, and I think to many people it does, but maybe not to everybody. So yeah, that's a good point. Susie.
I think also we want to encourage the departments to help figure out the messaging we want to give. They have constituents, they have support groups, they have networks. We want to have them float some ideas about what sounds like a usable message to represent something from them. Not getting into advocating for one department over another, but they need to hear that we're going to try to present something at town meeting, and what kinds of messages would support that.
Great idea.
Yeah. Okay, I know it's getting late, so let me ask this. Do we think this February 17th sort of preliminary estimate document or some portion of it can be shared to show folks kind of where we are in the sort of budgeting process at this point right now? Is this too much detail?
Yes.
Are there sort of parts of this that would be worth sharing?
I think the first part's important. We're basically showing them that the
Expenses.
budget's increasing by 9%, and these are the
Yep.
big reasons why.
Yep, that's a good one.
All right, so I'm gonna just highlight the portions of this thing. Okay, and I would think this
I think
portion,
we need to simplify the revenue part.
Yes.
Um,
Possibly lines 31 through 36 are somewhat explainable.
31 through 36. Yeah,
I mean, that's where our
right,
new revenue is coming
Yep.
from.
Yep.
And the focus is on the excess levy capacity.
right.
And AJ, when I send this to you, I can just hide the columns that you don't want, rows you don't
Yeah.
want to see. So I'll leave them there, but they'll be hidden so that nobody will see them.
okay,
And probably the use of cash reserves needs to be on here. The
Yeah.
proposed use
So
of
maybe
cash
this-
reserves.
so
Maybe not even by broken out. I don't know.
Yeah, so
Instead of the other page, right? You're right. That's a good point. If you scroll down,
that of this page you're saying? Or,
and yeah, we want them to see the detail, but we'd also, you're saying incorporate it in the bottom here, rows somehow in
Just
the,
one of the boxes you're using. Use the box of use of free cash.
yeah, so
oh, you know what we can do? Row 36, where it says estimated FY tax levy, I can insert a row that says less reserves, cash reserves, and then put that number in there, and then the 6905 decreases by whatever cash we use, and the dollar amounts below it calculate the 851 changes based on that.
yeah,
I can do that.
okay.
That's
So
easy enough.
I think what would be helpful is, George, if you could do that, send it to me, and then I'm gonna just draft some bullets.
Yeah.
Is anybody available? I'm gonna email it to the whole committee, but if some of you could just chime in, give me a thumbs up, something, before, I'm gonna send those around tomorrow morning, so like probably before noon.
AJ, I'll try and get this done first thing in the morning. I'll try and
That'd be
get to it tomorrow and get it to you by, say, 11.
All right. Then I'll send you some bullet points, kind of late morning tomorrow.
Okay.
And if you can get back to me by 2 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, and I'll give Haley a heads up that I'm going to be sending her a document that we want, hopefully, Brennan to share with everybody in advance of that meeting. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to include in the bullets the details of some
Yep.
preliminary proposals. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I think we've got a plan. George, I noticed this number here.
So that for
that-
new
that-
cash, that reflects what we funded last year. And right now
that's
we're
got
at
it.
zero.
Oh, right. I got you. Yeah. So,
I mean, I could set that to change based on the amount that we put on the other page to be
Yeah.
used by cash, the 194.
Yeah,
So
that's
now
what-
that number would be an increase of 60,000, let's just say, less than 60,000. And
yeah,
that would flow down, but then that means you want to leave this on.
yeah, you're right. You know what? Let's leave this because I think what we want to do is just show them where we start and then before we're making any adjustments.
Right,
And then
right.
show them that what we're doing is we're considering a series of steps that reduce this from 851 to 573, and we're continuing to work to get that.
Right. So we're going to hide the rows from 17 to 29, and then I'm going to make a new row at 37 that shows cash used. 38 will be the new tax levy number after cash is used, and the calculation at the bottom will be based on that.
Okay, got it. All right. All right. I think we've got a plan. Thanks everyone. Anybody else?
And could I just check your timeline? So once you get talk to Haley at 2,
Yeah.
is this information going to be able to be emailed out then, or is it going to wait till Monday?
I'm hoping that
Goes out Friday.
yeah, so I'll give her a heads up first thing in the morning, but then I might even text her now.
Nope.
But I'll tell her that by 2, we'll have a document, and I'm hoping that Brennan can email it to everybody before the end of the day tomorrow.
Yeah.
George?
I just want to be safe. So the conversations that are going to happen are not going to happen between any of the members of the committee, except the feedback you'll get.
Right.
You're going to send things out, and then people will
Nobody-
individually send feedback to you about what you sent.
Yes.
And
just
you'll
reply-
make it,
Right, just reply to me. Don't reply at all. That's the key.
and you'll just make decisions on your own as our committee head what to do with those comments.
Yes, and hopefully
Okay.
you guys
And
will be okay with that.
Just want to avoid deliberation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good.
And I think we also need to have a message at this summit is we're working really hard and all of it comes in now and we don't know the answers yet. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a few just notes, just so I know a bunch of people have talked about this, problem. I thought I really liked the funding problem, not a spending problem line. We've talked earlier about no new significant prospects for new growth, and about how we have to I don't, can I say we've sort of what the few attempts to sort of generate new business have for a variety of reasons not panned out, been discouraged. Yeah. No, I think we want to say something along those lines. We want to raise the point about one of the things that's happening here because of these challenges is we have a diminishing excess capacity that will, if this trend is not a sustainable trend, we will very soon run out of excess levy capacity and be in sort of override territory. So those are a few of them. I mean, messages. I will add a series of bullet points that make clear what, that sort of expand on some of what's in here, these budget increase, like the point about how the SES increase is largely a function of a non-discretionary out of district placement. So there'll be a few of those kinds of bullet points as well.
And are we scheduled for a meeting? We know the fiscal summit's on Monday. Are we meeting on the 24th, the next day for FinCom?
Is that what I'm trying to remember? What
I thought you said we would do this instead.
Yeah, I think we said we would do this instead, and then we would do our next meeting at.
I don't have our calendar. I don't know what else is
On
up.
March 3rd.
I think we said the 3rd.
Yeah, it would be March 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yep.
We just
And if something happens and we have to meet, we meet.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow Laura and I are going to take what happens at the fiscal summit and turn it into whatever we can, but
Right.
the timeliness is going to probably change. And then I just want to say rural aid is working to do advocacy. We're going to have some kind of action in the week of March 9th through the 13th. I'm not representing the FinCom in this. I'm representing myself. And we don't know what action it will be, but we're working on something on Beyond Postcards. And part of what happened was talking to the Gazette got today's article out there. And so we might ask people to put in letters to the editor, but we're probably going to go down to Boston and read off the names of all the communities that are being affected by this. Oh, they're all in Western Mass. Wow. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
But I'm not representing the FinCom on this. I'm just me.
Okay.
Go get them.
Okay, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
George,
Arnett, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
So do I.
And Steinai. Oh, right. Steinai, then Walton.
Walton, I. Was this supposed to be a FinCom reserve, a transfer? It's on the agenda. You have a transfer.
Did it?
I think there was, but I think we did it.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
for
the
the
SES,
elementary
the
school.
SES
No,
one,
elementary.
but yeah.
I think Haley would needed to be here. No,
You know,
Good point, Jim.
I posted a meeting for the fiscal summit. We could hang around for 10 minutes at the end of that meeting and do it then.
Okay.
do you have the information for that?
I don't.
Yeah, I think Haley has it.
Well,
think it's
I
one of the
no,
reasons-
I do have the bills, but I think I need some
Actual request.
yeah, like I'm not sure because there are a bunch of different bills, right? So it's not clear to me what the total is. So we'll get that figured out and do it at the end of the fiscal summit meeting.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Arnett, aye.
All right.
Well, you
Oh,
did
yeah,
it
we
already.
did it Oh, we've been adjourned. Oh, yeah, okay.
We're adjourned.
We had another meeting.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Have a good night.